So I want to begin with a question. What walks on 4 legs in the morning, 2 legs or 2 feet in the afternoon, and 3 feet in the evening? Anyone know? See a hand. Humans, right? That's the three is the cane, right? So babies, adults, and then elderly people often use a cane. But that's from the riddle of the Sphinx. If you read Oedipus Rex by Sophocles, you know that the Sphinx asks a question to passerbys, and if you know the answer, you can pass. And one version of the story, if you don't know it, you get eaten. Uh, so no one's going to eat you. But what I'd like to do is to speak today about walking. And this is one of the most basic of human activities. There's sitting, standing, lying, and movement, walking. Those are kind of 4 basic postures. And I think in a lot of ways, it helps to reveal the world to us. It puts us in motion. It changes our perception. It's like a kind of conceptual and practical can opener that allows us to see the environment around us in new ways. But it's often overlooked or taken for granted, except maybe when you break a leg or you can't walk for some reason, you're wheelchair bound, or something similar. Roughly, well, more than 90% of the US population can walk in some fashion or form. Not everyone, but maybe we don't walk enough. There's often a recommendation that you should try and take like 10,000 steps per day, which I think adds up to somewhere close to 5 miles, where the average American maybe only takes a little more than half of that. So, it's what I'm focusing on. Probably some of you, many of you maybe have during the pandemic gotten out for walks more. In fact, I think the studies show that we are walking more over the last couple years, maybe to escape the house or escape the family, right? Get some exercise, maybe do a little bit of meditation while you're doing that. So it's returning. But it's a long story, an interesting story, really about human evolution. We're bipedal. We have two legs. It's actually an ecologically kind of rare phenomena among animals. Many things could be said about our bipedalism. It changes or it gives us the capacity to change our place across the planet, to move all over the place quickly or easily. It reduces our heat load on the body, right? Because we're not bipedal. Because it frees our hands, and I can do things with technology, it enables us to change the environment. In some ways, it kind of gives us this technological capacity, in part because of the opposable thumbs. Don't lose your thumbs. You have to lose one of your fingers. And so in some ways, it helps to make us fully human, at least in a biological sense, a physiological sense, maybe even more important than our large or relatively large brains. But we sit a lot, okay? We sit when we drive. We sit typically when we watch TV or computers, or use computers. And that has effects not only on us, right, the vascular system, the heart, weight gain, but also on the environment, right? If we don't set our bodies into motion or find other ways of kind of, going through our day. This picture is actually taken from across the street in the local cemetery, where I saw a chair, and then next to the gravestone, right? Kind of dark humor, but it may be kind of even the gravestone. I was thinking tomorrow, right? Is this a shorter end than we would want for our own evolutionary histories or personal stories? There are many values to walking, right? Values for us, for the environment. It's a means, obviously, to get around. It can be used as a measure for our bodily relations with the world. The word mile, for example, comes from, it relates to 1,000 paces. We use the measurement of the foot literally as a measurement, but it's also an evaluative measurement. It can become a model for sustainable transport or community design. Even in buildings, you have to think about where people move, or across campus. You want to design the walkways where people actually want to go, not put them in necessarily ahead of time and then force people to go on those paths. I think it can be a mentor, a teacher, teaching us about neighborhoods, community relations, and the broader earth. And finally, it's a kind of movement. Literally, it's a movement, right? That can help generate meaning. We get into flow experiences, and a lot of the research shows we're in a flow movement, physically or mentally, we're happier, right? But also in the sense of movement, like a social movement, a movement for change. Uh, Many different kinds and styles of walking. I'm not going to go through all these, but all walks are not the same. There's strolls, there's saunters, there's rambles, there's goal-directed walks to the store or to your class. There are circuit walks in a museum or a gallery or a garden, even the mall. There's mall walking. There are a lot of walking even occurs inside. On average, we spend roughly 90% of our day indoors. So we want to, up and down stairs, around in buildings. Just to give you a few quick examples, these are all photos I've taken from journeys or even just local excursions. Pilgrimages in India. I've seen people walking hundreds of miles to the Ganges River in Varanasi for spiritual purposes or to witness or be part of a cremation ceremony. You will see this is also a picture of India, people carrying things on their body. In Africa, I have not been there, but frequently women will walk on average, or many women, up to 6 kilometers a day to fetch water, well water, and then to bring it back to the community. And these buckets, pails that they have on their heads can hold 20 liters, and that's 44 pounds, right? That's a lot of weight. And it relates to issues like water usage or energy poverty. It would literally cause a pain in the neck, right? By doing so. There's Buddhist walking or a meditation practice called Keen Hin. This is actually a Buddhist monk in India circling a stupa. He did it hundreds and hundreds of times while I stood there and watched. And again, there's kind of therapeutic and meditative aspects to this. There's very long walks. This is a couple pictures from the Appalachian Trail, which goes from Florida to basically to Canada, over 1,000 miles, and you can walk parts of it. And there are others like El Camino in Spain, or just maybe a walk in the park, right? More local, shorter, gets you out connecting with the community in the neighborhood. Urban walking, right? Maybe you find interesting things. A couple of these pictures are from New York on the left, seeing somebody on stilts, or in Montreal, 4 girls under one umbrella, right? That's kind of picture worthy. Snap a photograph there. And what I'm generally suggesting is that walking is part of a broader ethic. Call it like an everyday ethic relating to things that we do commonly during the course of our day, whether it's gardening, eating, food preparation, transport, living space, water use, or energy consumption. And the idea is if you change at least 1 or 2 things in your life, maybe just one thing, you get out more walking, you reduce your consumption of meat, that can then change your perspective on the world and then also change the world in positive ways. Right? Simple, small things, incremental, that can become kind of tipping points. The one simple way to organize this in terms of the benefits of walking for us humans, but also the broader ecosystem, would be to talk about it in terms of reduction of our ecological impact, meaning footprint, relate to other people, the place, and the planet, and finally respond. And I'll go through a few points about each of these, responding and inspiring others as well. Reducing your ecological footprint is key, because if everyone on the planet lived like us Americans, we would require 5 Earths. We only have 1 Earth, right? There's no planet B, but maybe we need a plan B, right? There's a rough formula for determining ecological impact, which is I equals P times A times T. So that means impact equals population times affluence level times technology. So we have to deal with one or more of those variables, either hold our population in check or lower it, lower our levels of affluence, by which it really means consumption, right? In wealthier countries, more developed countries, or overdeveloped countries, we consume more. So we've got to bring that in check, or sustainable technologies. So I'll pick it up. We got to move to a more green kind of footprint. Roughly 30% of greenhouse gases come from the transport sector. I like to think of it in terms of a difference between fuels from hell, so to speak, fossil fuels, coal, gas, and oil, and fuels from heaven, the skies, right? Wind and solar. So if we can move toward an active transport system, meaning like bikes and walking, we can reduce our impact. That, of course, necessitates planning, neighborhood design, better zoning, decentering the automobile. Bikes are more affordable, bikes being a variation of walking while you're sitting, in a sense, healthier. You know, if even 10% of us switch toward more regular biking, that can save an enormous amount of energy. Secondly, relating to the people and place and planet. How many of you guys remember walking to school? Anybody? Okay. We're doing that. That's great. Few of us are doing it, or kids are doing it, but we're heavier. We're using more oil because of that, right? Some neighborhoods are trying to really incorporate walking into the activities of shopping and finding art and so on. Just even a regular walk, you know, connecting with kids, with plants, with animals. You see that dog? His name's Bones. Used to do distance running with him. You know, getting out, walking the dog is kind of important for connecting with others, the safety of the neighborhood, meeting people. Oftentimes, people will talk to you if you have a dog that wouldn't talk to you, right? Because it's kind of a form of mediation. Me being a bit of an eccentric, I walk the cat, right? Luca on the left, and sadly, Dante's not with us anymore on the right. There's a friend in West Philly, also walks his cat. It's a stylish sweater, right? Some people walk their sheep. I took this picture in upstate New York. Now it sounds strange, but they also rent them out for cheap, $1 an hour to mow your lawn, right? Essentially. You can walk your ferret. This is also a West Philly character. Yeah, or the dog walking the dog, right? You know, in fact, I think dogs take us for walks rather than the reverse. It's like, you know, where are we going? The point is here to slow down. Walking is generally about like 3.5 miles per hour. Notice things, connect up with the environment. It's a place-based ethic, right, that connects you with the broader surroundings. You know, this is where we need to think about sidewalks and making them interesting. You know, hopscotching, or this is Rittenhouse Square, making them interesting in design or their textures that change. This is from a global studies trip to Barcelona, La Rambla, right? The curves are engaging. This is a group walk I did with a bunch of yogis in World's End, Pennsylvania. You can see the world ends in that area that's light. You kind of fall off, right? Joke. But biotic, what we're talking about here is a broader sense of belonging, not just political citizenship, not just being a consumer, but a member of the biotic community. And the beauty of a good walk, whether it's in the woods or in the city, is that it kind of maybe moves us from beauty to duty. You want to protect, these are, by the way, some students over here at Tyler Arboretum, which I encourage you to check out. This is from Mount Shasta in Northern California. This is the beauty you can't really get by sitting at home. There are many virtues that you can learn through walking: simplicity, moderation, openness to the natural world, neighborhood responsibility. Generally speaking, historically, democracies depend on face-to-face contact, of getting to know your neighbors. And even certain virtues of like creativity, playfulness can be enhanced. In San Francisco, I ran across an elephant on the street during a water crisis, so I moved him so it looks like he's eating or drinking from the crack, right? Little things. Maybe in India, you're going to run across cows in the street, or this guy you probably don't want to mess with, the Brahmin bull. So there are challenges to walking, no doubt. Finally, responding to ecological challenges, all right? There's a group of individuals around the Fringe Festival in late August, frequently, that will walk the perimeter of Philadelphia, 100 miles over the course of 5+ days, get to see the city, all kinds of things that you wouldn't see by car. There's a woman named Eve Mosher who in Miami, New York, and Philadelphia has chalked a line through the city to show where visually the water will rise if it increases 10 feet. In other words, it's sort of telling us this is what's going to disappear, go underwater. And this is something that helps us to kind of grasp the challenges of the rising seas. There's a figure, a few other examples here, John Francis, who in the early 70s witnessed an oil tanker spill off the coast of San Francisco, and he vowed basically not to ride in motorized vehicles, and that vow lasted 22 years. He also took a vow of silence that lasted 17 years. He walked all over the country, became an ambassador for the United Nations Environmental Program, and he might even be speaking here next semester. Very interesting story. There are other artists that use exhibits to get us out walking. This was in New York, called The Gates by Christo. I walked the Central Park for 4 hours through these orange-colored passes. He also got people walking on water. Interesting story there. The variation on bike riding. Philly does a naked bike ride to encourage people to tell them not only about the dangers of hitting motor or bicyclists, but also as a sustainable transportation option. Just up here, about a half mile off campus, again, making the walking areas interesting. I think it's outside of a retirement home, right? The curves engage people. Finally, just a couple of other examples. Music and movement. Walking is a rhythmic phenomenon. It's a falling forward, catching ourselves into a rhythm that's repeated. There used to be something called the Walkman, right? You know, you listen to music, you get into a flow. A group of artists have actually created piano stairs. They've taken the stairs and set them into music, so that when you walk up and down like the stairs of a subway, you play music, you create it. And so kids love that, you know? So that's another way to enhance and encourage walking. Finally, another R. So we had reduce, relate, respond, and a fourth R, resist. You can join these movements on foot, a movement, right? Take to the street if necessary. That was happening at COP26 in Scotland. It, I'm sure, will happen again for climate justice. There is a movement afoot now, some of you might want to be interested in this, to across universities to divest from fossil fuels. That's another way to get involved, and I'm sure you'll be hearing more about it. So again, concluding remarks, try and green your footsteps, so to speak, reduce your impact, relate to local places, respond, and if necessary, resist. It's always a great day for a walk. Thank you for listening.